Hi, I'm Rob, and in this Gems of War video I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think is good and bad in the Soulforge this week. As well as that, I'll be taking a look at this new weekly event troop and telling you what I think about him too. Anyway, two cows were grazing in a field and one said to the other one, "Do you ever worry about that mad cow disease?" The other cow said, "Why would I care? I'm a helicopter." Okay. Anyway, let's take a look at the new weekly troop. Fucker. Oh god, I can have some fun with this. Sorry. Fucker the Wise. Let's take a look at this old fucker. Right, what you got, fucker? Right, what does this fucker do? Right, this fucker, he gives magic +1. Magic. He gives magic +1 to a random skill on an ally, then repeats for a second time. Then summons, this fucker then summons a random drifting sands troop. Oh god, sorry. I swear I'm like 12 years old sometimes. Oh god, sorry. Anyway, he's a bit like a mini Shibanu Vespera. Does a similar kind of thing. This old fucker, he puts that part onto a random skill. You don't know where it's going to go. It could be on life or something like that. You want it to go on magic to boost someone's magic to increase the damage of their spell or whatever, or their effectiveness of their spell. And it does it a second time, which is quite neat. So in my case, somebody's magic could go up by like 70 odd, which is quite cool. So yeah, this old fucker is actually quite handy. This, you know, when you got him on your team, and the other team might look at your side and go, "We've got to watch out for that fucker." That fucker is dangerous. In fact, you know, I want to target that fucker, because if that fucker gets to cast, then he could make someone else on their team really, really powerful, and we don't want that. I've got to take that fucker out. That fucker can be bad news, and he's got to go. So yeah, so basically, as before, always get these up to Mythic if you can. If you have the glory, get this fucker up to Mythic. Get this fucker traded, and this fucker can actually do you some real good in your team. Because, like I say, if you're lucky and he puts that effect onto magic, then your opposition could be in a lot of trouble. They're going to be thinking, "Get the fucker. That fucker is a lot of trouble and we need to sort him out." And he's wise. Anyway, enough about this old fucker. Let's do this anyway. Let's do it now. That fucker is mine. Got 15 of the fuckers. Don't need 15. I'll just ascend them later. Anyway, oh dear, enough childish jokes. Whilst you're here, you can also grab Spoils of War. I always grab these up to 10. Always good to get. Extra event keys is the main bonus from this, and if you're a earlier player, then souls are rather handy too. Treasure maps, just chuck them in the blinking room with the rest of the million treasure maps you're probably never going to use. It'd be nice when we actually can do something with these in the Soulforge. Everyone must have a massive stack of treasure maps they just do not use. Right, onto the Soulforge itself. Now I've got that fucker out of my brain. Oh god, that's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing for a while. I sense it. Right, first up is the weapons. What we got. I'm not going to look at the things that are here all the time, like these regular ones. These have been done in other Soulforge videos. So first up is Scarab of Nefertari. Eliminates magic +1 from a random skill, then curse, deathmark, and disease an enemy. Yeah, don't like these sort of things. When it eliminates from a random skill, I don't want it to be random. There's obviously a 1 in 4 chance it may take it from someone's magic, which is going to lower the effectiveness of their spell. But yeah, it's not very good. Curse, deathmark, and disease. Deathmark in particular can be handy. Curse, definitely very good when used in the right way. Can apply to impervious troops. Those ones that are undevourable or impervious, suddenly they will be when they're cursed. So it does have its uses, but It's more collectible than anything, for certain, that one. Dagger of the Sands. Remove all yellow gems with no effect. Then deal a damage to an enemy based on your magic, boosted by the gems removed. If the enemy is from Drifting Sands or the battle is in Drifting Sands, deal double damage. So this is basically an anti-Drifting Sands weapon. Yellow is the colour which Drifting Sands enemies covet the most, and when you cast this, you take them all away, and it doesn't use yellow itself, and it's obviously better if your team doesn't use yellow, so can be good in the right situation, but again, far from essential. Doomed Axe is the next one. This is pretty good. I do really like this weapon. One of my favourite types of doomed weapons. Deals damage to all enemies, and it's a decent amount as well, +1 per tempering level. Then convert purple gems to Doom Skulls. Doom Skulls do more damage than regular skulls, and they also affect people or enemies, even if you're entangled, which can actually be quite a significant amount of damage sometimes. If the enemy has a Doom, create 5 more and gain 3 mana for each yellow enemy. So a lot going on with that, but the thing I like about these weapons is you can clearly see if you're going to get that conversion on the purple to Doom Skulls into, say, a 4 match, you're guaranteed an extra turn before you cast it. So I really love this sort of weapon. So really good weapon, absolutely totally worth getting, can be super dangerous. Blade of the Sands. Deal damage to the last enemy, and if there's a dust storm, remove all green gems with no effect, and create a dust storm. So, okay, can remove green, good against enemies that like green, but it's limited by damage to the last enemy. Handy if you particularly want to target someone in last place, if they're stealthy and there's no other way in your team you can hit them, then this is good for that, but it's not a huge amount of damage. So pretty specific use, that one, very specific indeed. These ones are here all the time. Sharp Fang. Let's have a Sharp Fang. Much better than the Blunt Fang. Oh, this is one of these ones. I like these ones. Explode a magic +1 brown gems. Grant a random status effect to all monster allies. Then summon a monster troop. Now, the cool thing about these kind of weapons is you don't need to have monsters on your team necessarily. Some people only would pick this if they've got monsters, but the only benefit, and it is a good one, is to give random status effect to monsters when you cast this, but it's not actually essential. When you think a Mountain Crusher explodes gems, and that's all it does, this is just a few more mana cost than that, and it doesn't actually use brown. So if you've got other troops on your team that use brown and need it quite quickly, then this can be really useful for that kind of purpose. And it has a summon as well, so really good indeed. Sting. Oh my god. Oh god, is it just the way I think, or am I in some sort of weird mood again? Stinging Wind. This weapon. This sounds like a weapon which was named after a combination of having too many baked beans and a particularly potent curry, like a vindaloo. This is exactly what you'd get. You'd have a stinging wind after you had that combination of food. Dear. Deals damage to an enemy boosted by Drifting Sands allies, then creates a mix of 6 yellow and brown for each Drifting Sands ally. So uses red and blue, but creates a yellow and a brown. So you have to have obviously other troops on your team that use yellow and brown to benefit from this. And if you did, then that would be a potentially very good weapon, but you need Drifting Sands allies on your team to make the most of it. So very situational, but very good if you meet those requirements. Crystal Axe. Sounds like the thing that you could only use once, but not if it's a particularly strong... If it's a strong crystal, then you can use it more than once. It won't just break. But anyway, let's stop picking holes in these names. Well, not picking holes, just having a bit of fun. I'm in one of those moods today. Right, deal damage to an enemy boosted by monster allies, then create a mix of 6 green and brown for each monster ally. So very similar to the last weapon, but based on monsters. Uses red and blue, creates green and brown. So exactly the same as the last weapon, make sure you have monsters on your team, and at least a couple of them need to use green and brown to make the most out of that weapon, but if you meet those requirements, again, can be really good. Last one is Stone Staff. Deals 38 damage to an enemy in my case, looks like magic +4. Deal double damage if there is a dust storm, and create a dust storm. Dust storm is brown, this uses brown, so it's going to help to charge it. Okay, double damage can be definitely handy, and it's good to create a dust storm when you need brown, so slightly situational, but a low level weapon. But if you haven't got anything else, then this could actually be not too shabby, Sherlock. Alright, onto the troops now. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. That is always a good way to go. Let's do the mythics first, and come back to the legendaries after. Undyne. Not a fan, if I'm honest. Clues in my title. But it deals damage to an enemy and then the next enemy below. So no good if you want to attack the enemy right at the bottom, because you're not going to get that extra damage. Damage is boosted by merfolk and submerged allies, and you do then get to submerge blue allies and silence blue enemies. So the second part of that spell can be really useful. Silence blue enemies can be good. So against an all blue Guild Wars team, for example, could be good. Submerge myself at the start of each turn means basically if you get that trait, he's constantly submerged. And the only thing with that is that leaves him subject to attack from Captain Macaw. Captain Macaw is a troop which will instantly kill anybody that's submerged. So it actually makes him quite vulnerable to that. So yeah, sort of good and bad at the same time, but far from essential. Skadi. Freeze and mana burn the first two enemies. No choice in who you attack, it will always be the first two. Then knock them to last position. So the good thing about that is, when you've knocked them to last position, if you get to do it again, those two you just attacked, who are now in last place, you now effectively get to freeze and mana burn the ones that were in third and fourth place before, presuming nobody's been killed yet. So that can be bad, because sometimes you want to actually attack the last opponents you attacked, otherwise you're just softening them up and they're still there. You want to actually finish them off sometimes. And it does summon Queen Mab at the same time. The only thing with her spell is there are more and more troops now that are immune or impervious to mana burn. So this kind of spell is becoming less and less effective. She is good in the way that she creates an ice storm at the start of every turn. That is pretty good. But apart from that, she's becoming slightly irrelevant in the game almost, I would say. Too many troops now are impervious or just, like I say, immune to mana burn. But in a team that doesn't have those things, they're not immune to that, then she can be not too bad. It's just, yeah, not perfect, because when you mana burn someone, you do extra damage based on how much mana they've collected. So it's not always a good time to cast her, even though you could cast her. So, okay, but certainly not great. War. I do believe this was the first ever mythic in the game, and due to the power creep in a game like this, he's been outdated and now seems a bit old and fudgy. Burns all enemies, deals magic +1 damage to an enemy boosted by my attack. Gain an extra turn if the enemy dies. That can be a significant amount of damage if you've got a way to boost his attack. And gain 3 attack at the start is okay, but it's just a little bit too slow. One of the best things about him is 50% chance to ignore armor with skull damage, but yeah, War is kind of collectible now and outdated a long time ago. Who's the last one? Draakulis. Dracula steals life from all enemies. That is it, that's all he does, nothing else, but it's not as bad as it sounds. When you steal life, that is effectively true damage. And in my case, I'm stealing 36. So presuming there's a whole set of 4 enemies there, what's that, 72, 144. That is a total loss to the enemy of 144 life. But when you steal it, you add it to your own life. So the total swing in life from the enemy to you is 288 in this instance. So that is quite a lot of effective damage and gain at the same time. So in certain teams, I think he's actually not too bad. He's certainly not the best, has very specific use in a way, but out of the mythics that are here, I'd say he's pretty decent. The traits aren't too bad either. Immune to Deathmark and Lycanthropy is quite a handy thing. Lycanthropy is very irritating. That does seem to come into play quite often when you're hit by it. And gain 8 life when I deal skull damage is not going to happen that much, because generally this guy is not going to be towards the front of the team. He's going to be generally more towards the back. But other than that, he's not too shabby. Right, let's take a look at these Legendaries now. As ever, I don't suggest you craft Legendaries with your diamonds. Much better off waiting for them to pop up in chests. The mythics are way harder to get, so save your gem or your diamonds for that. Wrath, very, very dangerous troop. Transforms blue gems to brown and yellow to skulls. So you can see if you're going to get that conversion before you cast it. But the reason why he's so dangerous is he enrages all allies and burns all enemies. The enrage deals 1.5 times attack damage and ignores enemy traits. So that can be just super, super dangerous. Anybody with skull reduction in their traits, doesn't matter. This guy is going to put you through pain and suffering anyway. Very good indeed. Who we got next? Gog and God. Not as bad as it seems. You never really see this in teams, but it's probably due to the randomness of the spell. But it's not actually as bad as all that. In my case, it's deal 35 damage to the first enemy and spend all your gold to boost the damage, a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you had 50 gold, that would become 85 damage. Or deal 35 damage to all enemies, which can be significant, and gain 50 gold. See if you get to cast it twice and it chooses to do the first one, you're going to get a boost on that damage. But yeah, a bit of a head scratcher indeed. Bunnynog. These things do not like knights one single bit. Deals damage to an enemy based on your magic, and if the enemy is a knight, deal double damage. But there's also a 50% chance to devour knights. So this is only really good versus knight teams, but when it does, it is fantastic. You're going to want this at the front of the team, because it also deals 5 times skull damage to knights. Wow, that is insane. And also start battles with 50% mana and reduce damage from skulls by 20%. That's some thick fur on that furry thing. Alright, so excellent against knights, otherwise don't bother. Moloch. Drain all mana from an enemy and deal true damage to them, boosted by the mana drained. So, yep, it can be good. Mana drain is a very annoying mechanic in the game, but when it's on your side, draining mana, it can be very, very useful indeed. And enemies lose 1 skill point on 4 or 5 gem matches, and gain bonus red are the cool parts about the traits, and immune to burning in fairy fire is not too bad either. So, there's Moloch, and I do believe that is the 4 legendaries. But who gets my super coveted... not mythic of the week? Well, it can't be War. You're too old. Can't be Scardy. Too many people are immune to mana burn these days. Undying. You can get killed by a bloody parrot, mate. So it's going to have to go to Draakulis. Not the best mythic ever by a long shot, but certainly good in certain situations, and certainly for me the best one here out of this motley crew. So there he is. Draakulis gets my mythic of the week. Got the world event team coming later today. If you want to check back later on to see what that is, what I managed to do with this world event. Will we use that old wise fucker? Will the fucker get a run in the team? Will the team be worried because I have this fucker in my team? We'll all find out later on. Not this fucker, the other fucker, the wise one. The one from the shop. Anyway, enough of that joke. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye for now.